I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. My guest today is Vivian Myers-Jones, passionate advocate for LGBTQ+ rights on both sides of the Canada-US border. A dual citizen and American military veteran, Vivian has become a powerful voice in the fight for trans rights, drawing from her own experience accessing gender-affirming care through the U.S. Veterans Affairs system while living in New Brunswick. Her work with St. John Pride has helped foster cross-border solidarity during a time of increasing hostility toward the LGBTQ+ community in parts of the United States. Thank you, Vivian, so much for taking time today to come sit down with me.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that.
I have to start by, I noticed your shirt right away, see you in court. It's already a famous Janet Mills, Governor of Maine quote. Tell us a little bit about this shirt and where it comes from.
So it's a really wonderful organization that's headquartered out of Portland called Equality Community Center. And they did this, I think it's a limited edition, so I don't know if there's still some available or not. I can tell you I've seen it a lot in the state when I was there, but yeah, they did it to in conjunction with Maine Transnet, which is a trans support organization in Maine as well, and it's one of these things I saw it and I was absolutely grabbed one immediately, and I've been very privileged to have become connected with some of the folks who work at ECC. I'm friends with a few of them now, and they're amazing people, and they really do really amazing work. So I'm absolutely happy to support them.
I think New Brunswickers felt a lot of pride in seeing Governor Mills being able to voice her opinions and even stand up to the president for what she believes in. As both an American and Canadian citizen, has it complicated things this year? Does it feel scarier crossing the border? What has life been like?
There's a level of trepidation every single time I do it, even as a dual citizen, because the Trump administration has demonstrated they don't care about the Constitution, and having the constitutional right as a U.S. citizen to be in your own country doesn't seem to matter to them anymore either. But I will say, so far it's been so good. Like in terms of crossing over, I don't want to use myself as a litmus test for that, because like someone who just has only Canadian citizenship and nothing else, they can't guarantee what's going to happen. It's been okay, but I know it's not been okay everywhere between Canada and the U.S., unfortunately. But it's one of these things. I have to be there, and because this is our community too. I mean, to us LGBTQIA+ community, we're all family, regardless of the border, and so that's our family over there too. And I just want to do what I can for to help out as well.
I know that we all have experiences of how we feel when we hear news policies change, but I wonder how that has impacted, from your perspective, the LGBTQ+ community, particularly the trans community, in feeling accepted. Even when it's not your country changing policies, that still, if it's a world leader like the U.S., the dialogue comes into every home.
This is going to be a very hard word to use, but I've got to use it. What's happening in the U.S., it is genocide. That it absolutely is that. They took the steps first by removing references to trans health in CDC documentation. They removed trans references in the Stonewall Memorial, which is looked after by the federal government. They even actually horribly went one step further and removed bisexual references as well. So it's now just the L and G, and that's it. That's the only thing that they've got in there. And that's the same thing as the book burnings in the 1930s, is what that is. And they've even gone a further step to, I'm sorry this is going to be a bit of a heavy talk here, but I kind of want folks to really kind of realize, like, they've also, the Trump administration also ordered that they stop collecting data on criminal incidents against trans people. So when it comes to Trans Day of Remembrance in November, they're basically making it impossible for us to access the data to name names. I mean, that's just cruelty right there. There's just nothing. There's nothing beyond just evil in doing that. So it is, and then and then trying to basically make it impossible for us to get our ID documents as they should reflect to, and then in some cases, like what some of the horrible legislation they were pushing in Texas, where it was saying that if you had legally changed your gender marker, they're now going to charge you with identity fraud because they're going to say that those IDs are illegal now. It's just the level of depravity that brings out. I mean, we're under a real threat right now in the U.S. and so when you have states that do support us, and states like Maine, like it's really amazing, and it's really important that we can continue to, and for me, just that feeling that to be able to support our family on that side, I think that means everything to do that. So.
Is it important for you to share your story, to share what you've been through, in part because I know that one of the heads of GLAAD was saying a couple years back that in the U.S. especially, more people think they've seen a ghost than have met a trans person, and that can have an effect on people's ability to have compassion, to empathize. I
think it's really it is really important because I think exactly for what you said, that people have not. Some folks really have just never met a trans person directly, never communicated with them, never heard our stories or our experiences, and their only frame of reference might be from something really derogatory that you might hear in from a lot of media back in the 90s, especially when we were in the 80s and 90s, where we were treated as punchlines or as criminals or as psychopaths, because that's the way we were depicted in a lot of movies and film and stuff like that. And then they might only see, they might only watch Fox News and then, think that, that we're some existential threat when we're not. So I think, and I wouldn't, I make myself very visible and very visible as being trans right out of the gate. So number one, it just takes that questions out of there, so they don't have to wonder about that anymore. And then they might have an opportunity to get to know me and realize like I'm not a threat. None of us are, and that also being my authentic self it's made my life better. I'm still here on this earth because of that, and also everybody around us benefits too because they have 100% of us. We're better off, and I've made these points a couple times, but it's like we're better off, the healthcare system better off, like all of society. It's a net gain for us as a species when we're here. So that's just what I hope people say. And like it's having us here is a gift. So. And
also, I want to say thank you for your service, and how does that feel, having dedicated so much of your life to the military, to have trans people's role in the military suddenly become a question mark?
Well, when I was at Penn, my dad was military as well, and it was before the days of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and they actually had, the U.S. Armed Forces had very much in the same place, the same LGBTQ purge type that the Canadian forces had, because if you were found out as being either gay or trans, even though they wouldn't call it trans at the time, you were dishonorably discharged. They would ruin your credit history. They would send out like negative letters to everybody to basically make you unemployable. They would try to ruin your life, if you were outed at that time. So I was, as a kid growing up with that, hearing about service members having that happen to them, it was already scary being able to do that. When I was active duty, it was during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So it was one of these things where I think people's understanding was it's a slow evolution, but people were starting to understand a little more. But the fact that those regulations were still in place that could be used against you if you were outed in some way, that was kind of hard seeing that. So when President Obama had repealed that finally, which was actually about a year after I was finished, it was such a relief to see that finally. And then you saw the members of the armed forces really flourishing. I think their performance was better than it ever had been, and to see that all just torn down in the ways that it has been, it's the most distressing thing ever. Seeing somebody who was 19 years in, 1 year from retirement, all of a sudden get an other than honorable discharge out of that, that's reprehensible, and I'm hoping this will be rectified in a very solid way soon. So.
You've spent a lot of June, especially being a part of Pride events in Maine. I want to hear what that experience has been like. I haven't had the chance to go to a Maine Pride event, and I really wish I did this year, because I think it would have been an interesting year too to be there, just in terms of the political environment.
It was the presence there was absolutely amazing. It always has been. I went to some of them last year as well, but it was just you felt it everywhere. Globally, June is recognized as Pride Month, but here in the Maritimes, we pace it out because when Pride Toronto does it in June, we want folks to have the opportunity to get over there, and so we'll a lot of New Brunswick does it in July and August for that reason.
Even Montreal's August.
Yeah, exactly. But Maine does like everything in June. Every single region in Maine, and it is just nonstop. Where it's we had in my involvement because being on the board of St. John Pride, we're in a partnership with Bangor Pride, which is something we started up last year, and so I was involved with one of their fundraisers right at the beginning of the month. That happened. The day after that, Ellsworth had their Pride Festival, and then that next Friday, one of my really good friends, Serenity, who's a performer in Maine, I joined her down in Bath for their Pride Festival, and then the day after that, I was actually at a No Kings demonstration. I was a speaker over at that, so that was a different thing. But that was still happening during that too, so it was twice as that was twice as busy as well for that. But then Portland Pride Portland's parade was that next weekend on the 21st. I think there was probably about 10,000 people that showed up to that. It's always big there. It was just magnificently big there. And then Bangor Pride's was the weekend after that. And the June 28th, it stormed that whole day, but there was a couple thousand people out there in the rain, where it dropped down to the tens or something like that. I mean, it got kind of cold and kind of messy, but everybody stayed out for it. It was actually so amazing to see that. But also Eastport and Lubeck's Pride festivals were that same weekend as Bangor, so it was and then you had Lewiston, Auburn. Hallowell's was also the same day as our fundraiser on that. So it's just everybody does everything there. And then Pride Aroostook as well did theirs as well. I think it was the first day in June or the 7th of June. It was, you kind of lose track of it too, but it's but no, it's just Maine it's just amazing how they just do everything. And the visibility was very strong this time around. And I think I hope it stays that way.
You've been working very hard to show that unity between Maine and New Brunswick with your work with St. John Pride. Have you seen people go across the border both ways to be a part of both events? I know that here in Charlotte County we've had lights across the border to show solidarity when there's just a river that runs through you, but that river is also really the line of a border. It's made for very reflective times here in Charlotte County to have our friends and neighbors on the other side of the border maybe not having the same rights anymore. And so I know that the call for Pride here in Charlotte County is to make sure that cross-border unity feels very strong. Have you witnessed the same thing? I know that you've been advocating for it.
We're seeing more of the queer community in Maine coming up to New Brunswick, and that's something we had one of the things we actually did was back in March over at a Monarch nightclub in Fredericton, we did a solidarity drag event where we had New Brunswick performers and Maine performers on the stage together, and it went. The show was Third Contact. It was in my drag mode as a BZ Magic, and then my friend Hillary Fluff. We produced it, and it was one of these things. Seeing folks from Maine and New Brunswick come into a venue together and actually get to know each other and realize hey, we're all family, and it was so wonderful. And we've had some folks start coming over more often as a result of that. The Maine community also knows that there's not a lot of the New Brunswick queer community is not going to be over as much, and they all get that. But there's been the interest and enthusiasm to come over here, so it's happening, and it's really amazing to see that.
So they see New Brunswick, see Canada, but New Brunswick in particular as a safe place.
Yeah.
Wonderful. As you live through this moment in history, as challenging as it is, what has it taught you about where we need to go as a society? What do we still need to learn? In terms of both compassion and understanding of others?
We really need to, teach future generations, and that open minds, open hearts, that we can't ever roll back from that. And it's very important that being transparent about our history, and even the really unpleasant parts of our history, is something we need to share, because that's kind of where, when you stop doing that, that's where you run the risk of repeating it, because they don't know the disasters that would happen there. So we've really got to be open about our history, and then also be open about discussing us as humans, and because it's not rude or inappropriate for people in the younger community to know that trans people exist. I mean, trans kids exist. I mean, and we've always been here this whole time. And there's, and so it's I think that's one real important thing that we've got to do is to continually be open about us and discussing this, and not lose focus on this, and then also be open to showing compassion for others. There's a good possibility that we're going to be seeing more of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community coming in as refugees here in Canada, and that that we're not a threat coming in here. We're going to be it's going to be a net gain for our country, but for also us as a human species to have this here.
What's your biggest fear going forward? I know it's a time that I think a lot of us don't know what's coming. And it really comes down to people, whether they stand up for what they believe in or if they choose to be silent.
It's the biggest fear is kind of already happening, and that's been the pogrom against us. But it's also there's the interconnected, genocidal campaigns against those who had immigrated to the U.S. and seeing that. I mean, the real fears are already kind of going underway. You think about, you don't want to think about the possibility of civil war. If it comes to that, but we've got to stand firm on that. But it is always the fear of like how many more of us are going to be erased in this, but with that fear too is that's where action comes in, is that that it's happening. What are there's things we can do to stop it, even if it's something as simple as posting something in support of us on social media and just dealing with whatever backlash we get from doing that, but just standing firm and supporting us. Things like having affirming churches, for example, where they get harassed by maybe more fundamentalist churches and organizations for working hard to be safe spaces. I mean, those are, those real acts of allyship for those who are outside of the community. If we can just keep on doing these things and do them twice as loud.
I'm going to do a shout out right now for Natasha Perrin, who's the minister of the Wesley United Church here in St. Andrews, who is an affirming church. Yes. She wrote an article for the July edition of the Courier to coincide with Pride Month here in Charlotte County about what it means to be an affirming church and why that is a very Christian thing to do. And I'd also love to hear your thoughts on, I think sometimes rural places especially get looked at as maybe the last place to change or stand up for what you believe in, and yet in New Brunswick we've witnessed what happened in the aftermath of Policies 13 challenges. Also we see Governor Mills standing up to President Trump saying, "I'll see you in court over trans rights." How do you feel when you look at those two examples in this time? I think sometimes we're in shock by some of the big businesses and even big states that seem to stay quiet, and yet this small Canadian province and this small, quiet American state seem to have been able to stand up for what they felt was right.
Well, and I think that's where those of us in the community, when we're seeing what Trump's doing, we kind of had that rodeo with the Higgs government at that time, and seeing on a provincial scale us being targeted in the exact same way that now is happening nationally in the U.S. So it's seeing the provincial government here now, who got elected, and now seeing the liberal government, provincial liberal government, supporting us in the ways that they have, and also the Greens have done that as well, absolutely, and it was really amazing seeing the NDP leadership, the Green leadership, and the Liberal leadership during the rallies against the changes to Policy 713, all coming together at the podium and speaking in solidarity on for us. That was really amazing, and I've seen that in the No Kings demonstrations in Maine that I've been, and I've actually been involved with 6 of them now actually as well. There's a whole other thing I've been busy with that as well, but Green Party members and state Democrat party members, coming together. Also the Socialist Party members, also like all of them kind of converging in the same way that we saw over here in New Brunswick, and it was just really just hit in such a powerful way seeing that happen here too. So I mean, really felt we're on the same page. I mean, as far as corporations go, corporations are run by people who we would hope have consciences too. So when they start making decisions where they're going to think like how it's going to affect their bottom line, that's gross when they kind of think like that we are a financial liability. That if they don't want to support us based on that, it's like, come on, people. I mean, it's the right thing to do. If you do it as a corporate entity or as individuals, it is the right thing to do to support us. And yeah, no, it's an icky thing to see that, where corporations think like that, supporting the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, being
if it alienates a certain customer, then they won't bother.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's yeah.
I have to touch on something you said earlier, which hit a nerve with me because I think about this a lot. You said, to show solidarity sometimes means just posting on social media, regardless of the negative comments. And I think about that a lot because I know when I post on behalf of CHCO, even things like Pride coverage, I have to check the comments a lot. I like to keep the comments section open because we are a community television station. I like the community to feel that they have a voice, but I have to monitor a lot to see if something crosses the line into hate. And I know which posts I have to be more careful on, and a lot of them should be very joyful posts. Even our Pride bingo that we had this week here at the TV station, it's heartbreaking to have to worry that someone will post something that is just filled with hate. How do you, as a person who's when that hate is posted on something, you post it so personal, how do you deal with it? How do you navigate that, especially when sometimes it can be very threatening? It isn't just about a mean message. No, it can make you feel vulnerable. It turns into such a
dumpster fire sometimes with some of those comments. I mean, and you've got what I'm learning about some of them is that like it's you got a lot of the same repeat offenders who kind of come in to kind of cause problems, stir it up. More often than not, a lot of those people making those comments aren't real humans either. There's a lot of bots going in there, I'm finding now, and you start seeing patterns of that where and I'm starting to see like, okay, that's not a real person who actually posted that. That's something that was AI generated doing that, and that happens a lot more commonly than we might realize as well. So it's we're already familiar with some of the individuals who kind of come into problems, and then some of the other individuals don't even exist. And I find that when what I find is that I'll have a large number of people that I know who will come out and support. That's what does that. When you get the ones who are coming out to have your back on it, it makes it all worth it. If you even positively impact one person in that, you've done something amazing. So for 2,999 garbage comments you get, which half of them aren't even from real humans, and you get one person who said, "This changed my life, thank you," you've done good. You've done something amazing. So.
Well, I know you are having that impression right now on the countless people that are watching you in their living rooms right now, hearing your words, hearing your story, and hearing about everything that's going on in the world right now. We have about a minute left in the show, but I want to leave that minute to you for any final messages you have for people watching at home right now.
We make the world a better place when we're our authentic selves. This is the biggest act of self-love that we have right here. We are loving 100% of ourselves, and in doing so, loving others becomes easy, which is exactly the way it should be. So we're better off. Our families are better off because they have them. the whole structural system in society is better off because they're benefiting from our existing. So if you want to just look at the strict pragmatics of it, it's a net gain for us to exist. Everybody benefits by the fact that we exist. And I mean, we really do make the world a better place. And just take the time to listen to us, listen to our experiences, and so we're amazing. I'm glad we're all here.
You are amazing, and I'm very grateful that you are here today. I'm very grateful that you are you, and I'm very grateful to you for sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Vicki. Appreciate it. Thank you.
My guest today has been Vivian Myers-Jones, LGBTQ plus advocate and U.S. military veteran. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.